The chilling winds that sweep across the Galloway coast of Scotland are not the only things whispering of a darkness long past. In the ancient parish of Rerrick, where the land meets the sea in a grim, unforgiving embrace, a legend lies buried beneath the quiet soil. It's the tale of a house, a family, and an unholy presence that tore through their lives with such malice. It left a scar time has never healed. Welcome to Residual Fear, where the shadows are never quite empty and the past never truly stays buried. What happened in the Ringcroft of Stocking in the year 1695 was no ordinary ghost story. It was a siege by the inexplicable, a terror that broke every law of God and man. A slow-burning nightmare that led to a brutal, fiery end. This is the chronicle of the Ringcroft Poltergeist, a chapter of Scottish history so twisted, so horrible, that it remains one of the most remarkable and terrifying in the records of demon stories. To understand this horror, we must first understand the man at its heart. Andrew Mackey was a stonemason and a farmer, a man of simple faith and good standing in his community. His house, the Ringcroft of Stocking, stood on a gentle rise, a simple stone cottage where he lived with his wife and children. They were a hard-working family. Their lives followed the rhythm of the seasons and the demands of the land. In this quiet corner of Scotland, their biggest worries were bad harvests, harsh winters, or the occasional illness. The idea of an evil spirit, a creature of pure darkness, invading their lives was not just unthinkable, it was a nightmare from another world. The first signs of a presence were brushed off as small troubles. In the cold February of 1695, Andrew found the bindings holding his young cattle had been strangely loosened during the night. A sensible man, he blamed the wildness of the beasts. He made the bindings stronger, thicker, weaving them from rope and withy to make sure they would hold. But the next morning, he found them broken again. A feeling of worry began to grow in his mind. He moved the animals to another outbuilding, hoping to stop the strange events. But the first night in the new place, his hope vanished. He woke to a sight he could never forget. One of his cattle, tied with a tight tether of hair, was hanging by its neck from a beam in the house. Its feet barely touched the ground. An act of cold, planned cruelty. A horrible show of power with no earthly reason. What happened next was a chilling start to a full nightmare. A stack of peat, the family's fuel for warmth and light, was found piled in the middle of their home and set on fire. Andrew's hands shook as he put out the flames before it burned them all. A few days later, a strange voice began to torment them. The family, praying in the dark, heard a sound like a child's voice, but empty, full of hate, mocking their words. These events were no longer just annoyances. They were clear, evil taunts. The darkness had found them, and it was playing a cruel game. Andrew, a man of simple faith, knew he needed help. He turned to the church, asking for advice and protection. From his parish minister, Reverend Alexander Telfair. Reverend Telfair was a man of faith and reason. At first, he was doubtful and very worried. He came to the Ringcroft of Stocking, bringing a small group of elders and trusted community members He thought some local troublemaker was playing a cruel joke. But what happened next quickly proved him wrong, in the most terrifying way possible. The stone throwing started on the 7th of March, a loud and horrible noise. Stones, some as heavy as 7 pounds, rained down from nowhere, smashing into walls, breaking floorboards. No one could see where they came from. They seemed to appear in the air, a physical show of pure hate. This attack was no accident. It was a siege. 4 days and nights of endless, unrelenting attack. Windows shattered, furniture broken. The family and their visitors huddled together, frozen by a fear so deep it almost felt real. But the poltergeist was not satisfied with stones. Its cruelty got worse. It turned its anger on the people themselves. Reverend Telfair was a main target. During a prayer meeting, as he leaned against a bedside, he felt a strange, cold pressure on his arm. He looked down and saw it. A little white hand and arm, reaching from the elbow down, before disappearing as fast as it appeared. The hand was not the only ghost. A friend of Andrew Mackey saw a young boy, about 14 years old, wearing gray clothes and a bonnet. The figure simply vanished before their eyes. The horror was no longer just sounds. It was seen. A brief look into a world of pure evil. The poltergeist's rage grew. It was no longer a game. It was war. Andrew Mackey was hit in the head by a stone. He felt as if someone with long fingernails grabbed his hair and scratched his skin. Men were pulled across the room by invisible force. Their scared screams echoed through the house. Children were not safe. Their bedclothes were pulled off in the night. They were hit so hard their cries filled the house. On the 2nd of April, the spirit found its voice again. As the family and visitors knelt in prayer, a chilling sound filled the room, a clear whistling. And the words, "Wheesht, wheesht," meaning hush, an insulting challenge, a defiance, a direct insult to their faith and their efforts to find peace. The family dog, hearing what it thought was a call, barked and ran to the door. Reverend Telfair, deeply worried and scared, called for more ministers to help. Mr. Ewart and Mr. Murdo arrived, men of strong faith, men of courage. But even they were not safe. The poltergeist seemed to enjoy their presence. During prayer, Mr. Ewart was hit twice on the head, his blood flowing. The spirit pulled his wig off while he prayed. Stones were thrown into his napkin. Mr. Murdo was also hit with several painful blows. No one escaped the spirit's anger and cruelty that night. Hot peats from the fire were thrown among them, a terrifying sign of the hellish fire that awaited. On the 8th of April, the terror reached new, dark levels. Andrew Mackey was walking down the lane when he found a letter, written and sealed in blood. The message was a chilling threat. 3 years thou shalt have to repent. A note it well. Inside, a curse. Woe to be to thee, Scotland. This was no prank. This was a smart, evil force. A being that could write, seal, and deliver blood-stained warnings. The siege ended with a final burst of fury. On the 10th of April, 5 ministers and local men gathered, fasting and praying. The poltergeist answered with violence, As Reverend Telfair spoke, stones flew, shaking the house with terrible force. Some stones broke a hole in the thatched roof. One hit a man named John Monteith on the back. The barn door was torn off its hinges. Everyone was thrown around and beaten. This lasted until 10 o'clock. Then, as suddenly as it started, it fell silent. The house was not given rest. On April 28th, worn out by its own fury, the spirit turned to its final act of evil. The house was set on fire. This time the flames could not be stopped. One end of the home collapsed. It became impossible to live in. The Mackeys, broken and beaten, had to leave, leaving behind only a ruined shell, haunted by memories of their terror. Reverend Telfair's pamphlet, A True Relation of an Apparition, became famous in Scotland. It was written to fight the growing disbelief and doubt of the time. He believed the events were demonic, a dark enemy looking for someone to destroy. Modern ideas offer other explanations. Some say poltergeist activity comes from psychokinetic energy, usually linked to hidden emotions of a teenager. But that idea doesn't explain the violence, or the letter written in blood, or the attacks on many witnesses. Others say it was a trick, that Andrew Mackey or his family planned it. But many respected witnesses were attacked. Their stories make trickery unlikely. The brutal violence and the burning of the home suggest something much darker. The house was never rebuilt. It was left empty, and the story was whispered, passed down through generations. A warning that sometimes evil is not just a story. It walks beside us, waiting, watching in the shadows.